And Jesus straightened himself up after the accusation of the woman caught in adultery and said to them, "If any one of you have no sin, cast the first stone at her." With the help of God, Lent is coming to an end. And we know that next Sunday, with the help of God, we begin Holy Week. We begin the triumph entry of Jesus in Jerusalem, leading us to the Holy Thursday and Holy Week, Good Friday and the Vigil of Easter. Today, the fifth Sunday of Lent, the Church presents to us the challenge of this woman, who, according to the scribes and the Pharisees, she was caught in the act of adultery. But in order to understand that gospel, we have to go to the first reading, and we see what the prophet Isaiah is trying to say. The prophet Isaiah is thinking about the exile of the people, the exile of Egypt and the exile of Babylon. He's speaking about the two because he's writing after the second exile. And he said that when they were in the desert, how God opened from the rock water to feed them, to give them drink. And how he feed them with manna, and how he feed them with meat, and gave them everything they asked, because he was protecting them. Because although they were coming from a very tough situation, he is now leading them to a promise, the promise of the land that he promised to their fathers to give them. And with that same thought, we come in the gospel today, and we find a woman who is enslaved to sin. The woman was enslaved to evil. And because of this, she really needed to repent, needed to change. And the opportunity that God permitted to happen is for her own good. So that now Jesus will shower her with his mercy. Jesus was speaking at the temple, teaching the people. All of a sudden, a big crowd came around and brought this woman half naked and throw it in front of him and say, "Listen, according to Moses, this woman needs to be stoned to death. What do you have to say about it?" And Jesus ignored them. And that's the first lesson we learn. When people come to us and shower us or inform us of some mishap that happened, the first thing you need to do is to ignore them. Because if you give in to them by saying, "Oh, they are going to continue to really feed you more information that you don't need to know. That's what her private life. But they exposed her to Jesus. And remember, we are dealing now with the Holy of Holies in front of sin. And he came to be human, to die on the cross, purposely of that sin, to destroy the power of evil. And now she is in front of the one who is the most pure. If she know it or not, is not the situation here. But Jesus, instead of looking at her eyes and chastise her for what she has done, he ignored those who accusing her, and he bent down and he began to write. Some scholars of scriptures, this is something that is said that he did. Nobody is actually know what he did. He began to write the sins that they have committed in their lives. Imagine. You have the Son of God tracing on the floor your own personal sin, and you look at that sin, and you look at yourself and say, "I have nerve to bring this woman here." And all of a sudden, with all the stones in their hand, they dropped the stones on the floor. They didn't throw any stone, because he said to them, "Any one of you who have no sin, throw the first stone at her." That's the first lesson we learn. Ignore them. And number two now is pointing finger at them. Are you without no sin? You have the nerve to talk about this person, but you have so much, as we say always in our language, in order that you throw stones, believe me, don't live in glass houses, because, you know, somebody will throw a stone to you and kill you first. The third lesson is the dialogue that Jesus has with the woman. He's not condemning her. He said to her, where are those who condemn you? No one condemn you? They all left? And the answer came, no. And Jesus said, neither I. Now, how many people today, you know, when they hear Pope Francis speak on the plane coming from Brazil, that he does not condemn this kind of behavior and this kind of behavior, and say, oh, the Pope is in favor of this, the Pope... No one can condemn. Only God condemns. Because He is the one who can judge. How many of you are very upright when chastise a woman like that, and nobody reach out in his pocket and give her $20 to have a meal? The only money she has is from this behavior, because that's all she knows, because nobody else taught her better. How many times we speak our piece and criticize this and criticize that, but we are not the first one to really relieve the pain of those people who are going through pain. And then we go in the letter of St. Paul. Paul is writing to the people of Philippi, a beautiful people who love St. Paul dearly. And he said to them, for the love of Jesus, I put everything aside. In fact, I call those things that I put aside rubbish. To one thing, the relationship with Jesus Christ. I was schooled in the law. I know as a son of a Pharisee that the law will justify me. But I even put it aside, because now the law is fulfilled in the one who comes. And in Jesus, who is the Son of the Eternal Father, I put all my trust. And I hope that you understand me, that I am not perfect. I am far from perfection. I did not reach the maturity of a true Christian, because I am still battling myself and fighting to be perfect, to become a true Christian. But I have to tell you one thing, which is very, very important. Put your past behind you. Focus on what is ahead. Your sinfulness, when you are thinking about them, that you are not going to be saved because of your sinfulness, think about that redemption that Christ gave you. In the waters of baptism, you immerse in that water, and you rise from that water to the passion of Christ. We call it the Paschal mystery of Christ, the dying and rising, to a new creation. And now that you are a new creation, don't look back at the past, because that's the devil, to shame you and bring you down, so that you lose the relation with Jesus. But look ahead. In one of the letters, St. Paul said, look at Christ, where He is at the right hand of the Father, where one day you too must come. And this is really what is important in the Lenten season. How many times, we say, well, I made the Lenten season, I went to confession, and I did a lot of Lenten preparation, but I remain the same. Because you want to remain the same. Not because this preparation is going to lead you to remain the same. You have to keep one thing in mind, that what happened in the past, what you did in the past, that is forgotten if you are sorry and God forgive you for what you have done, because you ask for forgiveness. What you need to do now is to look ahead, to do the best you can to become a better person. Look what happened to this woman when she encountered Christ. Go and sin no more. In other words, He didn't tell her now, go and remain the same. You need to do something now. And that something is to change your ways, to change your lifestyle, to change your behavior, to change this attitude towards evil. Because it's not good that you go to confession. but also that you are going to repent and do something about it. And do something about it is because you are going to try the best you can not to go there again. This is what the contrition of heart is. Oh Lord, you don't spare a contrite heart. And this is what really is very important in our Lenten season, that we come to God with a very contrite heart. Whatever we have done in the past, in front of God is erased. He is not like us. I forgive him, but I will never forget. What kind of behavior is that? You have to forgive and let go. For two reasons. Number one, because this is the law of Christ. And number two is for your own peace. If you want to have peace in your life, you need to let go. By thinking of what they did to you, you're not going to go nowhere. You are going to ask for trouble. Jesus did not recount to her how many times she fell in this sin. He didn't even ask her, how many times you did this. Neither I condemn you. Go and sin no more. This is what Lenten season is all about, dear people. Not only, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I don't deserve to be called your son, but keep me as one of your servants. No, God does not do that. Bring him the nice tunic. Put the ring on his finger and shoes on his feet. Because for God, we are his creation. We are his masterpiece. And he loves us so much that he does not want none of us to go astray and be lost. May today's readings and meditation on it bring us to that conclusion, that God will forgive us. But then on our part, we have to do the best we can to avoid what displeases him, which is sin. God bless you.